Many students of the esoteric and occult mysteries are well aware that the Holy Bible is riddled with secret symbolism that's just simply not available to the uninitiated and the profane. In this short lesson, I'm going to explain chapter 2 of St. Matthew and reveal the secret message that the profane will never understand. First things first. When you want to find something of significance in the Bible, you have to learn to scan for specific elements, because the way that the Bible is designed is to intentionally mix history with mystery, and thus, in turn, blurs the line between fact and fiction to the profane and uninitiated. In chapter 2 of St. Matthew, there's really a lot of mystery being revealed. Mysteries in regard to the Godhead and creation and how things really come together in the human psyche. The story in chapter 2 of St. Matthew is simply a story of imbalance. Those of us who research esoteric and occult teachings understand that there is a masculine and feminine attribute to every facet of existence. These are often symbolized by the sun and the moon, even more so because of science. We now know that the right side of the brain maintains the feminine attributes, as the left side of the brain maintains the masculine attributes. In regards to understanding the mysteries, it's important that we don't focus on the brain rather than the actual attributes of the brain, just as it's important to note that the ancients never worshipped the sun itself, but that the sun was a symbol in reference to the life-giving light that exists in every particle of existence, including ourselves. Simply put, the story in St. Matthew chapter 2 is about imbalance, particularly an overbearing imbalance of masculine attributes. First of all, King Herod sought to destroy Jesus Christ the child, and let's face it, children are much more easier to deceive than matured beings. Typically, Christ is symbolic of us in our mature state of balance. But here in this story, Christ is portrayed as a child, or more unmatured version of our balanced selves, more easily distracted by external influences. Thus, King Herod enters the story. King Herod is simply the influence or energy that demands masculine attention. He can come into our lives in many forms, and if we're not self-conscious or aware of our balance, over time, King Herod ultimately wins and slays the Christ within each of us. Although this story uses the masculine attributes as the threat, it's also very dangerous to be an overly right-brained person or feminine attributed person. We've all known people who were overly emotional and gullible and live an emotional roller coaster life. Not healthy for that individual or fun for anyone to be around. Let's talk about Herod. In this story, Herod is obviously the problem, and in the problem, often, you find the solution. Let's look at the name Herod. Herod is obviously an overly masculine name, and if we divide that name in half, we get he, rod. 2 words, he implying masculinity, and rod implying the male phallus or the male force, being that male energy is active and female energy passive, hence horizontals and perpendiculars in Freemasonry. After assigning numbers to the letters of Herod's name, I found Herod's numerical value is 50, an even number in itself. But after dividing the name into 2 halves, he and rod, that changes everything. We now have the number 25 twice repeated, which may sound very familiar to Freemasons. Now, let's give the numbers 25 its assigned letters, B for the 2nd letter of the alphabet, and E for the 5th letter of the alphabet. Hence the number 25 spells the word be, not only once, but twice repeated. Herod's name was one word, just as the square is one tool. But in each of those symbols once divided, we find that the answer was to be united as one. And by being united as one, we manifest desired creation. In the end of the chapter, Herod dies, and Christ is liberated. Just as when a symbol's meaning has been revealed and understood by the initiate, the symbol dies and is traded for understanding and knowing. The simple message of St. Matthew chapter 2 is the same message that's been emphasized by the ancients for thousands of years. It's the message of Hermes. For a peaceful and successful existence, the two hemispheres must coexist in balance, left and right, male and female. As previously stated, the two must learn to be.